Okay, why don't we get started? It's a couple minutes after 6:30. My name is Dick Haskell. I'm the program manager for the city's neighborhood road program. I will be your host this evening. And with me tonight are Nick and Eric with the design engineering firm of Kimley Horn. With Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn is the district engineer for District 3. They've been doing all the design work in the district, and of course they're working on the plans for next year's program, which is why we're here this evening. Basically, I just want to give you a brief rundown on the program, and then I'll turn it over to these two gentlemen. They're going to take you through what segments are involved in next year's program, and basically what's planned for the segments, where we're going to do sidewalks and curb, where we're going to do major street improvements or reconstruction, things of that nature, where we're going to try and solve some drainage problems up in Hilldown. And then, when they get done with that, we're going to open up question and answer session, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, or listen to any input that you can give us in terms of any issues that you know of in your neighborhood or on your street that would benefit us in terms of maybe trying to design something into the street program, the street project, that could make some of those things go away, whether it be a speeding issue or a drainage issue or a signage issue, whatever it might be. That kind of input from you folks is really important to us because you live right there on the street, so you see every day what's going on out there. And right at the end of the meeting, we're going to ask you to come up. We have this little board here, and we're going to ask you to come up, and you guys are going to give you some little written green dots, and tell us with the dots where you place them what your priority is in terms of any improvements or any issues that you have on your street that we can try and design solutions to into the program. Whether it's crosswalks, sidewalks, pedestrian circulation, speed reducers or mopeds, shared lanes, bicycle lanes, any of that sort of thing. Or again, if you know where there's a localized drainage issue that we can help solve, please share that with us. Before I turn it over to these guys, I want to acknowledge Jamie Brown and Brian Shields. Jamie is the city's public services director. Brian is the city's board of utilities director / city engineer. They are the two most important decision makers about this whole program. So, having said that, guys.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Regato with Kimley Horn Associates, part of the design team working on the project. Thank you all for coming out today. What we're highlighting today are the projects here in District 3 in our Year 4 project. And bear with me, I have a little list of, there's several little streets that we're doing a lot of work on. So really, the focus on this project is the roads, the pavement, and what's needed to do to rehabilitate a lot of the asphalt out there. So we've looked at this project at the different roadways, and we've come up with 3 different strategies to work out the pavement design. And so there's the 3 levels that we have are milling and resurfacing, where it's just taking off the top layer of asphalt, bringing it back a new layer of asphalt. The second level is a mill and rework base, where we recompact the base under the asphalt. It takes a little more work, and then you come back and relayer a new layer of asphalt. And then the third, which is the most impactful, is a full reconstruction, where we have to take off the top layer of asphalt, the base section, and rebuild it to put a new section in. We've gone through, we've done some field analysis, we've done geotechnical investigations. We've taken all that information, and we're developing our design plans as we're moving forward. But currently, of those 3 brackets, the different streets come in different categories. So for the full reconstruction, we're anticipating Lakeside Drive from 7th Avenue North to 9th Avenue North to be a full reconstruction. Lakeside Drive from 14th Avenue North to 16th Avenue North will be a full reconstruction. Now the tier down, which is just a mill and rework base, we're going to be working on 5th Avenue from North Dixie Highway to North J Street. For North J Street, along North J Street, from 11th Avenue North to to 12th Avenue North, North K Street from 9th Avenue to 11th Avenue North, North L Street from 9th Avenue to 10th Avenue, and Lakeside Drive from 10th Avenue to 12th Avenue North. And the last category, where we're just going to be doing the mill and resurface, is from 8th Avenue North, from Federal Highway to O Street, and 14th Avenue from North Palmway to North Lakeside Drive. Now, along with the pavement work that we're doing, we're also addressing a lot of ADA issues. So what that means is we're going to be looking at curb ramps. If they're not existing today at the intersections, we'll be putting in new curb ramps along the corners. And we're also going to be looking for some sidewalk improvements. So areas where some of the sidewalk is broken or lifted, we'll be replacing those pieces of concrete. And also looking at the connectivity of sidewalks. We'll be looking at if there is a side of the road that has some areas that are discontinuous and the sidewalks do not go the entire length. We've looked at different sides of the roadway and with the city's help, figured out which would be the least impactful and selected one of the sides of the roadway to make a full sidewalk continuity from one end to the other. With that, I'll pass it to Nick to talk about some of the other concerns we're looking at.
Thank you, Eric. Just to add on to what Eric was saying, at this project, we're looking at the pavement, we're looking at sidewalks, we're looking at curbs. We don't anticipate any utility work to be done on these streets. We did take a look at the drainage on each street after a major rain event, and we found that there's a lot of standing water on North J Street, North K Street, North L Street. And we saw some areas on North Lakeside Drive that had some, again, some puddles and standing water. We're reviewing each location, and we're examining some solutions to that, and we would definitely take any feedback from you if you see some drainage problems every time it rains, like also what happens. We also have comment forms, and we'll be here for discussion. Any concerns that you have?
Thanks, guys. You gotta make this long. Okay. A couple of things. There is a set of preliminary plans up here. If you want to find your particular segment and see, like I say, in a preliminary fashion, what's planned for it. There's enough information on there that you can see where right now we're planning to put sidewalks, either replaced or small curbing, and that sort of thing. Okay, so this year, as the guys mentioned, we're splitting the project in this district into two separate projects. There are no underground, well, there's no water main. There's no water main at all to go in on this project. There may be a little bit of drainage, but what that allows us to do is it allows us to award contracts to what we call push-button contractors. There's a series of 5 contracts that the city awarded through the competitive bidding process back in 2017, at the beginning of the program, with a kind of a boilerplate set of line items on it, with prices for primarily roadway materials, asphalt, light mud base, concrete, all that sort of thing. And by virtue of having those contracts competitively awarded, we can take the roadway, projects that are predominantly roadways, and we can short circuit the contract process so that we can take all the quantities that the engineers are going to give us. We can put them into this matrix and see which one of those 5 contractors comes out lowest. So then we can just go ahead and award that contract. And the reason, again, that we're splitting this kind of in half at 13 is basically it's a convenient place to do it, to keep 2 contractors away from each other. And the thought process was that we get 2 push-button contractors in there, we'll get work done faster. And the faster we get the work done, the less the impact on the residents are. So that was the thought process there. So we'll have 2 different contractors working on either side of the district. Questions?
The lowest price will get the contract, is that correct?
Generally speaking, yes.
Okay. you take anything else into consideration in hiring a contractor to do this job?
Well, the contractors that we had, the push button contractors we have under contract now, went through a vetting process during the bid award process 2 years ago. And they were the ones that have been working around the city. So we've had pretty good success with, I want to say, most of them. So we kind of know, which contractor is going to do a better job than the other, and which contractor is going to be more user-friendly with the residents in terms of trying to ease the impact on them. We do have a couple of projects that are going to bid this year, not in this district. I think in District 1 and 2. Those contractors, that's a longer process, so it's probably a 2.5-month process to advertise and take bids. Part of the bid submittal that the contractor has to give us are references, past history of successful work, similar work, sorts of things like that, so that we can check back on them and we can get an idea of.
I have another question. So you want to lessen the impact onto the residents. I really appreciate that. However, sometimes the lowest price might only use 5 men. A little higher price might use 10 men. I mean, are those things being considered in order to lessen the impact on residents?
The short answer is no, because that comes into the category of means and methods, which we can't dictate to the contractor.
So they have to put
He
in
has-
the contract
the
how many
contractor-
people they have?
The contractor
don't
has
you look
has
at
a
that?
scope of work, okay? And he has a price to do that scope of work, and he has a time frame in which to get that work done. Now, there are certain
Okay.
guiding criteria,
Timeframe.
there are certain guiding criteria that we try to enforce with the contractor based on some experiences we had in year 1 on some of the larger projects, in that we're not going to let them tear up 6 blocks of road from point A to point B at one time, and have it take what you can imagine might be the extreme length of time to get the rehabilitation done, et cetera. We had a problem with that in year 1, so we've kind of put some restrictions in our requirements on
And
contractors.
I remember year 1. What's currently happening now in my neighborhood, the Lakeside, up in that area to 12th and over to Federal, they're doing a really good job, whoever that contractor is. They are getting things done.
That's actually one of our push button contractors. Yeah.
Well, he's got my vote.
And I did want to comment on this, just items. I've driven all over the city, and there's huge variations in quality. And so I presume some of those contractors that sort of beside this point, that will not have
Yeah, I say we have 5 contracts. Initially, we did have 5 contracts. I think now we're down to 4. 2 of them, well, 1 of them at least, we're not likely to, because it's a very large contractor, so he hasn't participated as yet because his prices haven't gone up. So that leaves us with 3. 1 of them we've had some issues with.
For example, some parts of Hallway were almost offered afterwards than before.
Yeah,
I think it's Palmer might be, can't remember for sure, I just know that first driving along there, some very impressive.
Okay.
They just
that's good to know, because all of these contractors, when the job is finished, when they get their final payment, the job is certified as complete, that begins a 1-year work period. So that if we find any issues with quality of the work, we notify them, they have to close it, they come back and fix it. So that's something that we're going to check out.
Yeah, it was just on the border line of unacceptable, so maybe we should change
A couple of things that I do want to mention. Is a constant source of frustration for our residents. You need to understand that these projects are not segment-driven, they are process-driven for cost-effective reasons. So the contractor is not going to come in and start on your street and not leave your street till it's done. Okay? He's going to come in and he's going to, either with his crews or his subcontractor, he's going to do the work that part of the scope of work that they're there to do. Whether it's removal of sidewalks and curb, or removal of asphalt, if it's a reconstruction project, or whatever it may be, then they're going to move on to the next segment, because they're doing segments. They'll be doing segments all over the South Half. So they're going to do the same process throughout the segments, and then they will come back. The process is not going to be complete, for example, if it's concrete removal, before they will start, come back with other crews, and start doing the pouring the new concrete, but there will be some time gap. So if, you know, you get all excited because you see work starting on your street, and somebody comes in and tears up something, whether it's a curb, sidewalk, or whatever, and then you don't see anybody for 2 or 3 weeks, they haven't gone away. They haven't gone out of business. And we are, the city has a very, very competent project manager that watches in the field all of these contractors. And he stays on top of how long they're leaving some of these under construction areas open. That's one of the reasons we've had such good success, even though it's a good contractor, what you see going on in District 2 right now. So just don't get upset about it. I had a phone call today from a gentleman had a driveway on 11th Avenue. Beautiful driveway, big brick driveway. When the contractor went through there and took out the curbing, obviously he destroyed some of the driveway. He has to restore that. Well, now the curbing's been put in, and the road has been paved, and his driveway hasn't been restored yet, so he says it's been like a month, and he wants to know when they're gonna do it. So what I explained to him was, look, you have a paver block decorative driveway. The contractor does not have his own forces that he is going to use, because that's specialty work, to restore that. He'll go back and he'll restore all of the concrete driveways, the concrete aprons. He's going to hire a specialty contractor who specializes in paver block driveways to come in and do all the paver block driveways. That's a scheduling issue for him, and he's got to get somebody that's going to come in there and do them all at one time. Otherwise, he's paying extra money for guys to come in and fix one. So that's why it takes a little bit longer, for example, if you have a specialty driveway for it to get restored. I left that as a voicemail, so I don't know if he was happy with that answer or not. In the background. Yes, sir.
I live on the corner of Lakeside and 702. And I have 3 questions. First of all, when is it likely that the work is going to be begun on the 7th and 8th, since this is a major initiative? I'll give you all 3.
Okay.
Secondly,
Remember,
the drainage is a really big problem, and I probably contribute to it because I'm at the corner, and if I've got leaves or whatever, it's jamming it up. But even though I take them out, it's got to go all the way down 7th to some other place before it'll drain. And that's basically, you know, grass and crap and other things there before I got there. The third is that although it doesn't affect this project, since you're asking, there is a belief among some members of this community that the area between Lakeside and Golfview is a racetrack. And they just go barreling down there, I guess, getting ready to get onto the golf course property. And it doesn't affect us insofar as, you know, it's what we've got.
7th where it goes into the.
I almost got
Right,
that.
yeah, but they just tear off the motorcyclists. And by the way, it goes in either direction. They come out of there barreling out. They do a really good job of keeping my beer can collection good on my side as they leave. I don't know whether they throw them over the top from the driver's side, through the window from the driver's side, or a passenger actually contributes the beer cans. I do have a sign that I was going to put up that says, "Thank you for your donation of dog shit and beer cans, but we have plenty of our own, so please leave your address and we'll return them to you." So, all joking aside, this is a scary issue with the driving and the water flow. If there's a heavy rain, it's going to take me probably a day and a night to get that thing down. I'm out there with my rake, getting whatever leaves I can get.
All right. Okay. Question number, I only have 3 questions. Project is in design now, obviously. We're about halfway through it. The program, the generic program schedule, okay, is to have the plans completed in October, November, award the contracts November, December, or maybe January if we have to bid it, but again, we're not doing that in this district. And actually start construction sometime January, February. Now, the projects will probably be, I don't see these taking much more than 6 months, 6 to 7 months for the entire project to be done. But when we get farther into it and see what else may be added to the plans, if we look at the drainage issue you're suggesting that exists at 7th and Lakeside, we may have to, we may be able to cure that with curb work, or we may have to put some structures in. But that's something that the engineers are
I mean,
going to.
some of my neighbors here, I think will attest to the fact that it's jammed all, at least like that.
Yeah, that's for real.
Yeah, it's really.
And as far as the speeding, yes, we can take a look at putting some speed reducers, or like I say, whether speed humps are the easiest thing to do. Just depends on what the issue is.
Well, they rev up, I can tell you the issue, they rev up at
Yeah.
Lakeside, or they rev up coming
I
out.
like to call these speed reducers instead of speed humps, because and actually, if we could take these things down here and just put them under one lump category of traffic calming devices, there's a number of traffic calming devices available to the city to solve speeding issues on the street. They're designed to address different issues in terms of what's causing the speeding. Whether it's, like on some of the north-south streets, we started using a combination of speed humps and bump outs at intersections and stop signs, because we would have 6 to 8 blocks of a one-way street with no stop sign between 2 intersections. So, yeah, it is very strict. So, yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that. Drainage. That's the generic time. We'll have more specific schedule when we get the contracts, because the contractor then owes us a detailed schedule. What he's going to be doing when, kind of a sequence.
I live on Lakeside, and I to the speeding thing, I've noticed since we put in speed bumps on Palm Way, everybody now uses Lakeside as their racetrack out up to.
That's what happens.
And so, and also Palm Way has the advantage of being one way some places, so Lakeside being both ways is real speed track, both ways. And I notice also with the bikers, what they do is they come off of Flagler, go over the, now, they come down Duke, and then they go Lakeside all the way to town over the bridge, and then, they have a loop, and that's where we are. And so it was a question of,
I used to ride a bike, and down here, I know why they do that, because everything is straight, grid pattern, and it's the only way to have any fun.
No,
Going around.
No, and I don't mind the bikers, actually, it's not the bikers, it's the drivers, actually, that are worse than the bikers I like. I mean, that was the other thing I was hoping. Is there any possibility of getting trees instead of sidewalks?
Trees instead of sidewalks.
Natives, trees, instead of sidewalks?
Trees aren't ADA compliant.
Okay. Here's the thing about street trees. We initially, in year one, we actually had an exhibit up here and let people tell us if they wanted street trees. Everybody wants street trees. And what you have to understand is that the bond program, which is paying for all of this, actually, your taxes are paying for this bond program, was geared toward and based on the rehabilitation of the streets. So it was purely a hard construction infrastructure type of program, so streets, curbs, sidewalks. It was not intended, it wasn't structured, and the funding really wasn't made available as a budgeted item to do like streetscaping.
What if we do our own, and we'll buy our trees and give them to you?
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
All right. We have used bump outs in some neighborhoods, and folks have asked us to put trees in, and we told them why, it's a budget issue. And they've offered to do the same thing, and that's a decision that the city will make. It depends on the kind of tree you put in there, because it's difficult, if not impossible, to irrigate, so you have to get a tree that.
No, I know, but there are lists of trees that have been parking lots and all over the place.
I think the guys in the next room are the ones I think that know about that.
We're in Mango Groves, I sort of misunderstood, where Mango Groves, 400 block of Northdale. I sort of misunderstood, thought that's what this area meeting was about, but I don't see anything below 7. Is there going to be work in other neighborhoods that
What you see in red up here are the segments that are involved in the project.
Are those gonna be the only segments? Nothing else?
With this year's program, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the ones that were budgeted for actually next year's program.
Is it possible that they might budget other areas as part of the bond issue?
We get that question every year, and actually, this is the first year that that may be possible, because it's the last year of the program. Okay. The way the bond program is structured, it has $40 million to build about 33% of the roads in the city to reconstruct. And the segments were actually identified with the voters, so they were part of the referendum. So legally, we can't spend the bond money on anything other than these segments until these segments are done. And it becomes frustrating sometimes because we find that we have segments that were driven by water main projects. And we get out there and the street really doesn't work. So those are the kinds of areas, but we have to do something because legally it's a segment that was in the bond program. So every now and again, we will put a street treatment to it if that happens. If there's absolutely nothing else that the street needs. That doesn't happen very often. We have a couple of issues in the district too.
I attended this meeting because I live North Cape between 10th and 11th. And since the speed bumps have gone in at the school, which are 2 blocks down, everybody gets through it and then zoom, they're coming. I mean, it's really awful. And the trucks, out of the cars trying to avoid 10th and Dixie, white. We get tractor trailers coming up. You know, could we have a no truck sign? Could we get a traffic calming or a speed reducer? It would really be awesome.
Absolutely. Again, let us know. Give us your vote up here. And also, if you want to address specifically your block, grab one of these comment forms. Fill it out and let us know exactly where you're. By the way, as an aside, on the, I think on your agendas, and on the not on the comment forms, on your agendas, at the bottom, there's a website address and there's a phone number at the bottom. The website address should be www.lakeworthroads.com, okay? That will take you to the program website. There's some good information there. This video will be posted there in the next, I assume, week or so after the meeting. And you'll see all the videos back to day one. The schedules for the current projects that are under construction are maintained there, so that you can look at those. There's some basic information on what goes into, what constitutes the types of reconstruction that we're doing. As Eric was kind of taking you through the building resurfacing versus the complete restoration. So there's a lot of good information there. But more importantly, the telephone number on there is a hotline. Nobody's going to pick it up, okay? It's a hotline, or you can call up, you can leave a message, or you can also send an email to the website. Within about 24 hours, those things end up in my inbox. So I get them all. And either I will respond, or I will send it to, depending on what the issue is, or I will send it to the contractor if it's a construction issue, because there's no point in my getting in between him and the resident, and he can just go out there and tell them when their driveway's going to be restored. And these contractors are pretty good about that. Or I may ask someone from Jamie or Brian's staff to respond. It just depends on what the issue is and what's going to get you your answer more accurately. But please, feel free to use those.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, from what you said earlier, because of the nature of the works will be begun simultaneously in multiple areas, and so over a period of time, it could be 6 months, our street may take 6 months, or our stretch of street to be paved.
No. The entire, for argument's sake, this entire construction project will probably take 6 to 7 months.
I see.
Your street's not going to be torn up that one time.
Okay, and I'm on Lakeside as well, North Lakeside, between 14th and 16th. Now, while they're working, how would we access our properties? Because we don't have any other roads near us.
The contractor, first of all, he's required to maintain and restore
An open lane.
access and parking access off hours, but he's not working it on weekends.
So as far as lovely meeting Eric and Nick, and they've shown me that on our particular stretch, the design team is wishing to put in, although we already have some sidewalks on the east side, some on the west side, the call that we see here, and my question is going to be, who makes these decisions? Is it the residents, or is it a team that we don't know? Because this, what Nick's showing me is we're going to have a sidewalk running up the entire west side of our street, which is going to disturb a number of my neighbors who couldn't be here tonight because they weren't given sufficient notice. Some of whom have gardens that are right up to the edge of the street. And one in particular who has extensive hedges, we said, I want to know well in advance if I have to do my hedges. So we're not, a lot of people in that particular neighbor goes from Lakeside to Conway and was not told because of her address. And I think I spoke with you about it a couple of months ago, because all of a sudden she woke up one morning and they were taking up the back of her property, and she had no notification because her address was not on Conway. So again, to go to the question of the design, we see on North Conway, there are no sidewalks in this new situation. So who makes that decision? And do the residents of a certain block, are they able to vote and in, a forum or whatever, make that decision? Because I'll tell you, most of the people that I know on our particular stretch love the simplicity of it. We don't, for the ones that I've spoken to, Nancy, we haven't spoken in depth, but a lot of them don't want anything more than a basic curb, including bike lanes. We like it simple. It's very elegant, it's very pretty, we want it simple. We don't want any of these signs saying we're Eden Place in large graphics that are completely offensive. I don't know who designed those. The whole room's laughing, right? Why do we have that? Who paid for it? It's a, how did the city come up with that without notifying us again that that was being done? A lot of people are very upset about those signs, and I don't want to see one at the end of our street that says Eden Place.
I can't address the neighborhood signs. I don't know where those are.
You guys listening in the back?
We like the signs.
We like the
We like the
signs.
signs.
Do you?
We like them.
Yes, we all.
Oh,
Yes.
really? You're the first people I've met. You like the graphics of them?
Yeah, yes,
Really?
yes.
You're the first people
They
I've met.
say just what they should say, and they show some thought that this is a historic area and something that should be.
They're graphically not historic, they're completely not appropriate for most people that I know. But anyway, that's another discussion. Let's let this gentleman finish so that we can move on.
Can I
So-
say something in regard to his point, not wanting sidewalks on, or
Yes.
having an issue on Lakeside with people having their gardens out to the curb?
Yes.
Doesn't the city have the easement for the sidewalk? Or is there an
We do.
easement?
Yes.
Well,
It's a right of way. It's a right of way.
No, the city has a road right of way. For example, Lakeside Drive or Palm Way or any street in the city has a dedicated platted legal roadway. Most of them in this part of town are about 40 feet, I think.
Yeah, it basically it is 5 foot off of the edge of the actual asphalt road
Now,
itself.
are the streets all the same width? Or is it a 40 feet overall, including this additional?
Again, it depends on what area of the city, because if you look like in Vernon Heights on the northwest part of the city, they have really wide right of ways compared to when you get into the neighborhoods on the District 3 and 4, so it depends on what street you're talking about, what area.
Okay.
But generally, throughout most of the cities, they're 40 feet.
So generally speaking, if you have hedges and landscaping all the way out to the edge of pavement, that's legally in the city's right.
Of course.
So the city
Understood.
has the right, not that they're not gonna work with anybody, because we work with everybody we can, but they do have the legal right to go in there and remove those to install and construct their improvements. Now, having said that, okay, let's talk about Palm Way for a second. First of all, the reason that those folks, that the people on the, I guess, the east side of Palm Way didn't get notifications was because we didn't pick up the fact that, that it was a double frontage condition and their addresses were on Lakeside. And Lakeside Drive was not in last year's program, so those residents never got notified. That was on us. We didn't put any sidewalks in over there because everybody that came to those meetings put absolutely no dots on sidewalks. They were very vocal that they did not want sidewalks.
And this, to have a vote, does everybody have to be here to put a dot? Or do we have?
We're gonna-
How do we do
we're
this?
going
Because so
to-
many people, there are 3 different other residents on our block,
Yeah.
I know, who I've been in contact with in the last 24 hours, who are not happy because they didn't know about this. And,
Okay, and I know you have others, because I had a call from a lady today, because she wasn't able to make the meeting tonight,
I know who
saying
that
that
was.
she wanted the sidewalk and.
Yeah. So what is the process? How do we finally say, okay, here is the consensus for our street? How does it work? Is it the dots tonight, or does everybody?
You can tell us tonight, those of you that are here, you can tell your neighbors to contact the website. They don't have to wait till construction starts to contact us through that website. If they have concern about this project right now, and they won't be able to be here tonight, they'll be able to see the meeting video in a week or so. But if they have a concern about an issue, while we're in the design process and they weren't able to be here, have them contact us through the website. Again, those things come straight to me. And if the consensus is that people don't
So
want
you go
sidewalks
by
out
not
there,
a
then,
design team of engineers, you go by the consensus of the residents, is the bottom line.
well, okay. We're consultants, so we don't make the decisions, okay?
Okay.
We tell the city, look, and they're sitting here tonight listening to you. We say, look, we were gonna put sidewalks on this street. One of the things that we like to accomplish with this program is to have a continuous pedestrian access way along one side of every street. So that's why we're looking at which side of a street, if we're only gonna do one side, would be the least painful. But
However,
You know,
you're
we'll-
saying that
we'll-
the residents
we'll sit
of
down with
North
staff
Conway
and we'll
were
say,
here
look,
and they didn't want it.
the preponderance of the residents out here do not want sidewalks, what do you want us to do? So, is there
And will
another
we
question
be-
there I
will-
didn't answer?
will- I guess I have a question there, my neighbors will have a copy. No, because it was very unfortunate, I'm on the east side, so what happened on Conway didn't affect me, but it severely affected one of my very closest friends. Again, this design process, will we receive letters that we're being requested to give our opinion within a certain time frame to a certain web address? Or is it just
Well,
sort of,
that's
if you
what-
know about it, then you can have
That's what
an
this meeting
opinion?
is for tonight. That's what this, so what I would do is I would encourage you to tell your neighbors to contact that website. And they can either leave a hotline message or they can leave an email. And it
That's
will be
Lakeworth Roads,
LakeworthRoads.com. Do you have an,
Right on the bottom of the.
I don't know
Okay.
whatever that is.
grab an agenda before you leave. I think there's one.
No worries.
On the bottom of the sheet.
Oh, yeah, it's there.
See that?
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question again about the sidewalks? This gentleman said earlier, if there were sidewalks that were already went up the street, then the other side of the street would not be getting sidewalks. Is that correct? Where if there weren't sidewalks there already, they would not be getting sidewalks then? Is that what he was saying?
It depends on the street.
What about North
On
K
on
Street?
the, on the streets, for example, over between Federal and Dixie, there typically, there's sidewalks on both sides of the streets, or there may be gaps in the
Right.
sidewalks, or the sidewalks are just old and crumbled and everything. So in cases like that, we'll go in and we'll fix the sidewalks that need fixing, and we'll fill in the gaps, and they'll end up with sidewalks on both sides of the street. On other streets, for example, over east of Federal, where you folks are, we'll take a look at the street, and one thing that I like to impress on residents that we do try as best we can not to do during this process is to change the flavor and the character of the neighborhood. That's not the intent of this program. Primarily what we want to do is fix the crumbling infrastructure.
Sure.
Now, that does include sidewalks. But again, that's, you know, that kind of input we will take from the residents, and we will go with the consultant, we will go with city staff, and tell us what to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. One, speaking about your section from 10th Avenue North to 12th Avenue North, really do not want sidewalks. I totally agree with us on this. We don't really need them. The street's wide. It's never been a problem before. And then I have a couple other issues. One is, I don't recall seeing that section in the original plans, and the road just doesn't seem that bad to me. So I'm wondering,
What section is it?
10th Avenue North to 12th Avenue North on North Lakeside.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why it's included now. And also, it seems like there's gaps, like you skip a street and then go, and isn't that gonna make like the visual of the street look a little strange when you're done? Would it be better to like do?
Yes, actually, it will. It
Yeah, I
will.
mean, you're so concerned with continuity of sidewalks, but what people are gonna notice are the roads, and this is just sort of like if people are sitting.
And the simple but really confusing answer to that question is, for some reason, the gaps in between what we're doing were not identified, they were not assigned what we call a PCI, a pavement condition index number, low enough to make this bond program. 60 was the cutoff, from 0 to 100. 60 and below is the cutoff for this program. So testing and analysis was done to establish those PCIs for each segment in the city. And the bond program consists of segments that were below 60. So what happens is, it's segment block by block by block by block. So these two blocks, they may have rated a 50, so they made the program. The next block up looks about the same, but it was determined that the asphalt and pavement condition wasn't as bad. It was like a 65, so it didn't make the program.
Well, how long are those blocks gonna be good? Because, I mean, we're paying for this bond over what, like 20 years, 40 years, I forget how many years. And so there's probably not gonna be another one in the near future for these other streets when they, these other sections when they deteriorate. And then what happens?
Well, the city
It's
is,
gonna be smoother than.
the city
bubble,
is
bubble.
trying desperately to start an annual funding program for street reconstruction, so that they can take, they're getting a head start with this bond program. And if there are any proceeds at the end of year 4, which is what we're in now, if there are any proceeds left that have not been spent after all of the bond segments are done, the city has the option, I don't say they have the obligation, but they have the option to continue. I would imagine they would do it in ascending order of PCI indexes, but have the option to continue with street reconstruction with that funding. They also are, again, they are trying to establish an annual funding limit to be dedicated to pursuing, because this program's only going to do about 33% of the streets in the city.
But that's gonna be a long time. The streets are gonna just look very strange.
Is, well, unfortunately, yes, that's correct. Without a massive infusion of reconstruction money, the only option is, because the streets have been ignored in terms of maintenance for so long. And you can't just fix everything. So it depends on the availability of funding.
One whole section of the city, at least, that would all look nice, and then start working. So
Well, I mean, we've been doing these segments all over the city and all the
the
districts.
It's like,
But that's the unfortunate.
and how, in my block, how do we go against that not getting sidewalks? 'Cause, I mean, I have nice plants there that, I mean, and everybody's saying now you need to plant more trees and plants, well, it's paving the planet hasn't been working. And you
Especially
really,
with black.
Just to kind of
Yeah.
throw some things in there.
yeah.
Like Dick had mentioned before, there are areas of the city, close to Dixie and Federal, where you obviously have sidewalk on both sides of the roadway, that goes the entire distance. Once you get into a lot of the neighborhoods, if you guys have seen, you'll have these weird segments where you'll have 2 or 3 houses where you have sidewalk in front of them, and there'll be a gap with no sidewalk, and it'll start up for one block, and there's really no. So when Dick was saying, we'll look and see both sides of the roadway and say, which one has more sidewalk, if they're both kind of spotty, and kind of choose one of those, because one of the issues with this program and what we were trying to correct was, you have a lot of areas in the city where if someone's in a wheelchair, they cannot get from point A to point B because there is not a continuous sidewalk. So they have to go into the street, which is not safe. So we wanted to make sure, as part of this program, that if you need to get a couple blocks from point A to point B, there's at least continuous sidewalk on one side of the roadway, even if they have to cross the street, because it stops on one side, you can still get in a linear path from one point A to point B.
But
And another issue.
Here again, the residents of North Palmway voted against sidewalks entirely,
If-
so their vote was
Correct, and
heard.
again, but there are areas in the city where we already have sidewalk on both sides, and there might be one or two
Well,
spaces
exactly, where
that
we
are
are.
in there, that we're gonna connect that sidewalk.
I-
But just to continue on real quick, and another issue when we were talking about, you know, addressing the ADA, the curb ramps and everything, when Eric was talking about, and Nick was talking about before, we have a lot of areas in the city where you've got corners where there's sidewalk, and it's just a drop off. There is no actual ADA curb ramp there, and that's rampant throughout the entire city. It's never been addressed. So that's something else we're tackling with this program as well, because it makes no sense, and it's not compliant at all. So there are a few things, you know, working, but again, you know, we like to get all the neighbors' input, and see where their feeling is on different things, but again, there is that 5-foot right-of-way basically off of the edge of the pavement on each side of the roadway that is part of the city's roadway right-of-way. So there are areas in the city kind of down like on South Palmway, where if the property owner looks at their actual map, their property map, they'll see that their property doesn't actually go out to the road. And even though they planted stuff all the way out to the roadway, if you look at your actual property boundary on your survey, it doesn't actually go all the way out to the roadway. In some areas of the city, it's weird because it's not just 5 feet. There are areas down in South Palmway where it's like 15 feet, like way back into someone's yard, and it kind of just like kind of zigzags, but it's at least 5 feet. That way, the city always has an option if we need to come through and put sidewalks in. So while I do understand that people plant, you know, things all the way out to the roadway, and we have worked with multiple residents in the past that have stuff planned all the way out there, and we always work with the residents based on their property. But that is city right of way. So I just want to make sure I threw that out.
Fencing, don't we have to get a permit, therefore you guys are deciding where that is already?
Excuse me?
And when we have fencing and whatnot, we have to get a permit.
Correct.
And then we have to put hedges in front of it to cover the fences for the law, for you. And therefore, we may take up a foot of that 5 feet for our hedges, and now to cover the fence that you guys have permitted us. You see what I'm saying on that?
I understand. Now, if you're pulling a permit for that work, then whoever's coming out to actually do the inspections and make sure that it's the right, you know, you're not exceeding the maximum height and all that other stuff, they should be looking at the actual location of the fence based on your actual property boundary.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
To make sure, so if you're putting in a fence and you do want to do some type of hedge or something in front of it, that it's actually going in far enough into your property that you're gonna actually have enough space to put in whatever kind of landscaping you wanna put there. But again, that's part of the permit process and who the code officer is.
Can I assume that these charts are dealing only with road improvements, not with drainage issues or with sidewalks? The sidewalk matter will be resolved in its own time, in its own way?
They're dealing with everything within the city right away that needs to be.
But these maps here, when I look in my street here, that's really just telling me that they're gonna be taking a look at the pavement where I drive, not.
Primarily the road, but again, in conjunction, I mean, the red lines just show you the segments that are in the program. Doesn't tell you what's gonna be done on those segments. That's what we're trying to help you out with this evening. And have the plans up here at the 50% level.
But if sidewalk were to be proposed for that would show up on your chart?
On these,
We have them on our
you
typical
show- they
section.
show up over here on the
All right, well, I
typical
looked
section.
at that, so I know what's going
Since
on.
these are already showing up, for example, on our stretches, putting a sidewalk up the entire west side, what is our, that you say in French, I don't know, you know, our end date to have the people offer you our consensus opinion?
Well, that's what Dick was saying. That's kind of what this meeting is for. But if there are neighbors that you know that wanted to attend this that could not, please have them email us through the
When,
website.
is there not a set date, like September 1st, every year going to make a decision on a set date, or is it just?
Well, I mean, we're like Dick had mentioned, we're in the middle of the design process now, so this is the time that we want.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
wanna
Well,
wait.
some people I can't reach immediately. Is it tomorrow? I have a friend in Australia, I have a friend in France, I don't, you know, who live on my street.
I would
We
hope
don't have
sometime
it-
in the next
we're not
couple months, while
notified
we're still in the
by a
design
certain
process. At some point in the next few months, while we're still in the design
You know,
process.
if you guys just, you know, to make it easier for you, not get a guy like me in your next meeting, why don't you just send out a form saying, do you want this, do you want that, please mail it back to us? You know, really,
You can actually let us know right up, I mean,
right up
the
until.
closer we get
Right.
to construction, the more problematic it becomes. But We're not gonna start construction realistically until January at the earliest next
But you
year.
have a planning team that needs to have a final decision.
And we will, staff will help us make those decisions if we get input from the residents in those types of numbers, if you will, even after we've got it on the plans. Doesn't mean we have to build it. If staff says, okay, let's not build it.
I'll give you my cards.
And also, the thing why we have to have a sidewalk on 14th to 16th on the north side is that because, is that around the city? Is that, you know, so that the people who are shopping and that kind of thing, I mean, are they expecting that people in wheelchairs on 16th are gonna go all the way down to town, to Publix? I mean, is that what we're trying to do?
The ADA requirements aren't, excuse me, not street or neighborhood specific. They are specific to the governmental entity that owns and maintains the street. So they apply to every place. As far as the ramps, you know, the tackle pads and everything, yeah, those are generic requirements.
So the
Actually,
whole-
it's a federal requirement.
It is federal requirement.
So the whole city has to do this, even if you're in College Park?
But that's if you have a sidewalk, and some cities don't.
Yeah, that's not the sidewalks. Yeah, but how do, Tom, I know, how do you decide disability-wise which sidewalk gets it, which one doesn't? You see what I'm saying? I mean, how did Palm Way not violate a federal disability?
The ADA requirement, okay, comes into play when there is a viable intersection with sidewalks. In other words, when there is pedestrian access from multiple directions to the intersection, people in wheelchairs and blind people that feel the maps have to be able to have those improvements and take safely across the street. So if, for example, in the case of Palm Way, there are no sidewalks there.
Right.
You don't have to put things in an intersection where there are sidewalks.
No, but how did they get around not having sidewalks at all? It's a federal law to have
So-
continuous sidewalk disability.
Based on the ADA requirements, if there's no existing sidewalk there today, they aren't, and it's in a residential neighborhood, it's not required for it to be placed in.
is
But
that
if there are
the majority?
segments,
If there,
if there are segments that are not connected, then the requirement to the maximum extent practical is to try to connect those the best the city, or in this case, the city, possible.
That doesn't work on our street at all. And you're proposing to put them up the west side when we have already a segment on the west side and much more on the east side. And so you're not making any sense here with our particular stretch of North Lakeside between 14 and 16, because their plan is, as I spoke with Nick, to do the west side of the street, whereas we're almost continuous up the block on the east side.
Like I said, we're in the design process, so we can look at, that's what these meetings are for.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So we can find out about situations like this and kind of go back and look at those
Wonderful,
areas again.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I heard early on was people were concerned about speeders, people flying through the neighborhoods. Don't sidewalks make it a little safer for the pedestrians and the issue with the ADA requirements? I mean, I understand.
Sidewalks,
We
no
have
one uses
sidewalks.
them. I've never seen a person on my
Nobody walks
sidewalk.
on them anyway when
Yeah.
it exists.
I use sidewalks all the time.
I use
You
them.
know, I take walks in my neighborhood.
I'm part of everyone.
Yeah, I take walks all the time. I take walks with a 7-year-old granddaughter. I love the neighborhood. I want sidewalks. And it's not only people in wheelchairs who use sidewalks, mothers with strollers,
That's what I was
grandparents with
getting
strollers. You gotta have a sidewalk.
I see
Lakewood
that.
puts itself out there as a walkable city. You know, I
and
think
you ought to have trees to walk in the city. I mean, how are you gonna walk in the whole 10 trees?
There's a roller stairs at every
We
corner.
need
Program doesn't
to
address
organize
streets.
an organization that gets money to put trees in for the city, okay? That's what, spend your time doing that.
Real quick, before they get the dots and go place everything, the gentleman's on his phone right now, I can't remember his name, but if there are stormwater issues you guys know of, please make sure you fill out one of those cards so we can look at that, so that can be taken into account when they're actually designing the roadways and everything. And I know you mentioned one area, I didn't hear any other areas were mentioned, but just in case, or just make sure that we have those locations up there so we can make sure we look at those.
Aware, I didn't see anything.
There are cards up there, comment cards up there?
Oh,
Yep. So we just want to make sure we have any areas that we're not aware of as far as if there's ponding, if there's any kind of flooding when we get a lot of rain, so we can look into those. So,
I think you guys did a miracle on J Street.
Oh, yeah,
I
it
never
looks
thought
great.
you could get that done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looks great.
Fantastic.
yeah, definitely.
J Street does.
That was a mess.
Yeah, looks great.
That's,
And it was
that's what the
fast.
program's for.
They did that fast. Kudos.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions before we do the, yes, ma'am?
I have to just give one quick comment.
Sure.
Because my neighbor, I have to support him. We have sidewalks on Lakeside on both sides. And I understand they're gonna try to put it on the other side all the way through, but you said they're still gonna leave my sidewalk. I see people all the time walking, just what you said, strollers or whatever. The minute the three houses that have sidewalks, they come up on the sidewalk for those three houses and go back down. Nobody uses those sidewalks, are you kidding me? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a sidewalk person, and I want to keep my sidewalk, even if the other side is all sidewalk.
And I've seen folks, I mean, depending on, not just in Lake Worth, but anywhere you go. I see people that use the sidewalks, and I see people that prefer to stroll down the traffic lane.
I mean, are there any statistics on pedestrian accidents in Lake Worth? I mean, because again, on Lakeside, where I sit and work most mornings, I look right out the window, and every morning, somebody's going the wrong way down that street to begin with. And then some young couple or people are pushing their strollers with their kids, and the bicycles are going the wrong way, or some big trucks coming up right behind them. And those are the people I see constantly trying to get as far over to the side as they can. They try to get up on a sidewalk, but they know where they're going to drop off a curb, so they may be the ones that need a little help too. So.
And this is good. This is what we want to hear. So that it gives us a better idea of what we can do, what's going to, not really, again, change the character of the neighborhood, but still going to provide the types of facilities and infrastructure that are going to be quite important to the folks using. Okay. Anybody else? Right. Eric's going to hand out your dots.
Get two,
And
each color.
please, I encourage you, before you leave, grab one of
This
these.
guy wants a bite.
If you have neighbors that are able to make it tonight, this
That's all you get.
I'll explain it again once we
I only get one.
Yes, one per person.
We thought this was maybe one, we just went both.
On the bottom row, it's coming out.
Lady said the bottom should all be.
Like a bylaw, sidewalk, and slide, and a crosswalk. I don't get a choice. I only get one.
I'll explain it for you.
No, that's, we just started, this for our second meeting for the second round for the year four. Yeah, they do the notifications and everything. So if you're affected, it's on your actual street, you'll get the notification.
Oh, okay, for the dots, we have two categories that we want everybody to vote on. One category is streetscape. That's what your green dot is for. You don't live there? The three items up there, select which one you are the most passionate about. And same with the traffic calming feature down below. You go ahead and use your orange dot. Vote on which of the three is your most significant.
No, only for